A giant cave stretched almost half a kilometer wide, cut from solid rock deep under the mountains of what used to be North America. 5,000 people sat completely still, breathing together, minds empty. This was the quiet ceremony, a tradition kept alive for 300 years since the Big War. Tom moved a little on his stone chair, trying not to make noise. He was 22, and this was his 100th time doing this. His teacher, Jack, sat next to him with closed eyes and a straight back, even though he was 70. The old man never said why they kept doing this, just that it was the most important job humans had. Staying quiet keeps us safe, Jack always told him. The cave had only soft blue lights in the walls, making long shadows across everyone. Nobody talked. Nobody moved. The only noise was the gentle hum of air machines keeping the big space breathable. 2 kilometers above them, Earth's surface looked mostly empty. Small villages scattered around, where people lived simple lives, farming and fixing old machines without making new ones. To anyone watching, humans seemed to have given up their old dreams of growing and moving forward. This was exactly what they wanted the universe to think. Commander Rex stood on the control deck of the scout ship Distant Reach, looking at the blue-green planet below. His gray skin caught the glow from the ship's screens as his 4 eyes blinked one after another, showing deep thought among his people. Another backward world, said his second officer, Dren, barely worth taking over. Rex turned his long head. The records show they once had good technology. Then they just stopped improving. The visitors, as they called themselves, had taken over 17 star systems in the last 100 years. Their plan was simple. Find growing civilizations, check their technology and resources, then quickly crush them before they became dangerous. They had never met real resistance. Our scans pick up strange energy patterns underground, said the science officer, Aaron. Regular meetings of humans in huge caves. No machines, just bodies. Religious stuff. Dren waved his 3-fingered hand dismissively. Many species hold on to such things before accepting our rule. Rex wasn't so sure. 300 years ago, these humans were advancing faster than any species we've seen. Then suddenly, they pulled back from space, broke down most of their cities, and started living this simple life. He pointed at the screen. I want to know why. High Command wants our report in 7 days, Dren reminded him. We should focus on listing resources, not studying old customs. We'll do both, Rex decided. Get a ground team ready. We're going to watch one of these gatherings. The quiet ceremony went on like always. Hour 3 became hour 4. Some younger people struggled to stay still, but the weight of tradition held them. In the middle of the cave, a simple stone stand sat empty, the center point everyone faced. Jack once told Tom that the earliest ceremonies had something sitting on that stand, but nobody alive knew what. The point of quiet worship was remembering something that must never be forgotten. But the exact memory had been purposely lost to time. This puzzle had always interested Tom. A small shake ran through the stone floor. Tom's eyes opened for a second. Such movements were rare but not impossible. Usually just earthquakes in the mountains above. He closed his eyes again and went back to his controlled breathing. What Tom couldn't see was the tiny probe that had broken through the cave's ceiling, floating silently near the high, rocky dome. Inside the probe, cameras and sensors recorded everything. Body heat, heartbeats, brain activity of the people, and the weird energy readings that caught the aliens' attention. Fascinating, Aaron whispered as she watched data streaming back to their hidden ship. 5,000 humans, perfectly matched body readings. This isn't random. This is training. Rex leaned closer. Training for what? Unknown. But look at these energy patterns. She pointed to a pulsing screen. They're creating a field that goes way beyond the cave. It's faint, but it's there. Dren made a dismissive sound. You're finding meaning in meaningless ritual. These humans are no threat. Our invasion will be as easy as the others. No. Rex's voice was strong. Something's wrong. I want a better look. He stood from his command chair. I'll lead the team myself. 6 hours later, as darkness covered the mountains, 3 visitors in special suits made their way through a side entrance to the underground complex. Their blending camouflage made them almost invisible against the rough stone walls. Remember, Rex spoke silently through their private communication system. Observation only. We don't fight. They moved quietly through the tunnels following the map their probes had made. The alien technology let them slip past the simple security systems the humans had set up. Finally, they reached a narrow viewing balcony overlooking the main cave. From here, the sight was even more amazing. Row after row of motionless humans, making perfect circles around the empty stand. The silence was total. This has been going on for almost 9 hours now, Erin noted, checking her tools. No breaks, no movement. Their discipline is impressive, Rex admitted. Maybe there's more to these humans than... His words stopped as Dren stumbled, sending a small spray of loose rocks clattering down into the cave below. The sound, though small, echoed loudly in the perfect silence. 5,000 heads stayed still, but something shifted. Rex felt it before his tools detected it. A change in the air, a tightening of focus. The humans didn't look up, didn't speak, but somehow they all knew they were being watched. "We should leave," Erin whispered, her voice showing rare worry. Something's happening to the energy field. On her scanner, the gentle pulse they had been tracking was changing, becoming wild. Below, an old human, Jack, opened his eyes slowly, looking right toward their hiding spot despite the camouflage technology. "We've been spotted," Rex decided. "Return to the surface." As the aliens pulled back, Tom also opened his eyes, feeling a strange sensation he'd never felt before. Around the cave, dozens of others were doing the same, their perfect harmony broken for the first time anyone could remember. Jack's rough hand found Tom's arm, gripping it with surprising power. "It has started," the old man whispered, breaking the silence of the ceremony. "They have come just as the old ones predicted." "Who's come?" Tom asked, his voice sounding odd after hours of silence. "The trigger." Jack's eyes shone with an emotion Tom couldn't name. Fear, excitement. "For 300 years we've kept the lock. Now they've turned the key." Across the cave, a young woman named Kate, wearing the badge of the Earth Defense Corps, was already standing, speaking urgently into a communication device. Others were getting up too, some looking confused, others with faces of grim determination. On the empty stand at the center, a faint blue glow appeared, growing brighter every second. "What's happening?" Tom asked, feeling a strange pressure building behind his eyes. Jack stood, pulling Tom up with him. "The quiet worship was never just a ceremony, boy. It was a containment system." He looked around at the growing chaos as more people broke formation, and now it's failing. Above them, racing back to their ship, the 3 aliens didn't yet know what they had done. They hadn't just watched a human ritual. They had broken the careful balance that had kept humanity's greatest power asleep for centuries. The final weapon was starting to wake. The morning after the disruption, chaos filled the underground complex. People who had kept perfect discipline for generations now moved frantically through the hallways, their voices creating a constant buzz that hadn't been heard in these halls for centuries. Tom followed Jack through the crowd, struggling to keep up with the old man's surprisingly quick pace. His head throbbed with a strange pressure that had started during the ceremony and hadn't stopped. "Jack, please, you need to explain what's happening," Tom called out. The old keeper finally stopped at a huge stone door marked with ancient symbols. He pressed his palm against it, and the door slid open with a low rumble. "In here," Jack said, "before the others come looking." The room beyond was small, but filled with technology that looked far more advanced than anything Tom had seen in the villages. Screens flickered to life as they entered, showing data streams and what looked like brain scans. "Sit," Jack ordered, pointing to a chair in the middle of the room. "I need to check your levels." "My levels of what?" Tom asked, but he sat anyway. The chair immediately shaped itself to fit him, and sensors came out from the armrests, attaching themselves to his skin. Jack studied the readings with growing worry. "Just as I feared. Your sleeping abilities are waking faster than most. Probably because you were sitting so close to me when the disruption happened." "What abilities?" "Jack, you've never explained any of this." The old man let out a heavy breath, his shoulders dropping. It was never supposed to be needed. The quiet worship was meant to go on forever, keeping the lock in place. He pointed at the screens. Or at least until we were ready to use what we had contained. Jack tapped several controls, and a floating display appeared between them. It showed Earth as it had been before the Great War, huge cities, massive space stations, ships traveling between planets. 300 years ago, humanity was spreading throughout the solar system. We were building technology that would soon let us reach nearby stars, Jack explained. During that research, scientists found something unexpected about human consciousness. The display changed, showing brain scans with unusual energy patterns, similar to what Tom had seen on the screens watching his own brain. Under certain conditions, the human mind can directly affect physical reality. Moving objects with thought, reading minds, controlling energy, abilities that had been dismissed as myths, suddenly had scientific proof, Jack continued. The discovery started a global race to develop these abilities as weapons. Tom stared at the images, struggling to understand what he was hearing. Are you saying humans are psychic? Potentially, yes. All humans carry the genetic ability for these powers, but they proved too dangerous, too wild. When the first generation of enhanced humans lost control of their abilities, the destruction was terrible. The hologram showed scenes of destruction, cities falling apart, landscapes twisted in impossible ways, strange energy storms ripping across continents. The survivors made a choice, Jack said seriously. Rather than let humanity destroy itself completely, they created a genetic lock, a change that shut down these abilities in future generations. The quiet worship was designed as a boost for that lock, creating a psychic field that kept everyone's abilities asleep. Tom touched his temple where the pressure kept building. And now that lock is breaking. Yes, the aliens who watched us, they call themselves the visitors. Their presence disrupted the field just enough, and now, Jack pointed at the readings. It's spreading. Across the complex, Kate Phillips walked purposefully toward the command center. As a captain in Earth's Defense Corps, she had been briefed on the true purpose of the quiet worship, though even most military people believed it was just tradition. The center buzzed with activity when she arrived. Monitors showed disturbances at worship sites across the globe, all experiencing the same thing that had started in the main cave. "Report," she demanded. Commander Harris, a stern woman with gray-streaked hair, turned from the main display. "It's happening everywhere. The blocking field is falling apart faster than our models predicted. Casualties? 12 so far, mostly older people whose minds couldn't handle the sudden change. Hundreds more reporting headaches, nosebleeds, and confusion." Kate nodded grimly. "And the visitors? Their ship stays in orbit. We've detected smaller craft entering the atmosphere. They're expanding their watching." "They don't know what they've done," Kate said, more to herself than to Harris. "No," the commander agreed, "but they'll find out soon enough." In a small farm 10 miles from the main complex, a young man named Marcus clutched his head in pain as plates and cups started floating around his kitchen. He had never attended the quiet worship, calling it outdated superstition. Now he screamed as the pressure in his skull built beyond bearing. "Make it stop!" he cried to no one in particular. The windows of his home exploded outward. A nearby tree pulled itself from the ground and hovered 6 feet in the air. Similar scenes were playing out across the settlement. People who had never shown any unusual abilities suddenly found themselves overwhelmed by powers they couldn't control. On the viewing deck of the distant Reach, Commander Rex watched the surveillance feeds with growing worry. "Something is happening to them," Erin said, her voice tight with scientific curiosity. "The energy readings we detected are changing, getting stronger." "Explain," Rex demanded. Erin adjusted the displays. "The field that covered their gathering places is breaking apart, but the energy isn't disappearing. It's moving to individual humans. Each of them is becoming a localized energy source." Dren, who had stayed doubtful, now leaned forward with interest. "Weapon potential? Unknown but significant," Erin replied. "If these readings are right, some of these humans could potentially create enough energy to—" An alarm cut her off. One of their surveillance drones had gone dark. "Show me the last transmission," Rex ordered. The screen showed a human, Marcus, staring right at the drone despite its stealth technology. His eyes glowed with an unnatural blue light. Then the feed cut to static. "Prepare a capture team," Rex decided. "I want specimens for study." Back in the monitoring room, Jack disconnected Tom from the sensors. "Your abilities are waking faster than most, but you still have time to learn control," the old keeper said. "Others won't be so lucky." "What happens to them?" Tom asked. "If they can't stabilize the energy flow, their minds burn out," Jack answered bluntly. In the early days before the lock was created, thousands died this way. A soft chime sounded, and one of the screens changed to show Kate's face. "Jack, we have a situation," she said. "The aliens have landed capture teams. They're taking people showing signs of awakening." Jack's face hardened. "They think they've discovered a new thing to study. They don't realize they're dealing with something we've spent centuries containing." "We need to speed up the timeline," Kate insisted. "Start training the stable ones immediately." "It's too soon," Jack protested. "Most won't survive rushed awakening. We don't have a choice. The visitors are already changing their tactics. They're using some kind of blocking technology on the captives." Tom stepped forward. "I want to help. Tell me what to do." Jack and Kate exchanged a look through the screen. "Bring him to the inner chamber," Kate finally said, "along with anyone else showing Class 3 stability or higher. We start now." As Jack led Tom through deeper levels of the complex, the young man noticed others joining them, people from the ceremony, all looking equally confused and scared. "Where are we going?" Tom asked. "To the true heart of the quiet worship," Jack replied, "the place where it all began and where humanity's final weapon was forged." They went down a spiral staircase that seemed to go on forever, the air growing cooler with each step. Finally, they entered a perfectly round chamber. At its center stood the object that should have been on the stand above, a crystal sphere about the size of a human head, pulsing with blue-white energy. "What is it?" Tom whispered, feeling the pressure in his head grow stronger as he got closer. "The sphere. We call it the Echo," Jack said. "It contains the psychic imprint of the first generation of enhanced humans, including their knowledge of how to control the abilities you're now developing." Kate stepped forward from the shadows at the far side of the room. "And today," she said, "you're going to connect with it." Tom stared at the glowing sphere, both terrified and strangely drawn to it. "Will it hurt?" Jack placed a hand on his shoulder. "Yes, but the alternative is worse. The aliens who woke you won't stop with watching. They never do." "How do you know?" Kate's face darkened. "Because they're not the first to find us. Just the first to get this far." Around them, other confused, awakened humans were being led into the chamber by older keepers. The blue light from the Echo reflected in their eyes as the next phase of humanity's long, sleeping plan began to unfold. Dawn broke over the settlement as 3 alien ships came down silently from the clouds. Their sleek, dark bodies absorbed light rather than reflected it, making them look like moving shadows against the early morning sky. Inside the lead ship, Commander Rex reviewed the capture priorities one final time. "Target individuals showing the strongest energy signatures," he told the strike teams. "Use the blocking nets. They disrupt the strange field these humans are creating. And remember, we need them alive." 20 visitor soldiers checked their equipment. Unlike the observation team, these warriors wore full combat armor, their normally gray skin completely covered by suits that could handle extreme conditions. Each carried a special weapon designed to knock out rather than kill. "High Command is particularly interested in this development," Rex continued. "These humans may have an ability we've never encountered before. Understanding it could be critical to our expansion." Aaron, who had joined the capture team as scientific advisor, studied her scanner. "The energy signatures are constantly shifting. Some are growing stronger by the hour. Then we move immediately," Rex decided, before they learned to use whatever power they're developing. The ships split up, each heading toward a different cluster of energy signatures. In the underground inner chamber, Tom's hands shook as he faced the glowing Echo. 20 other awakened humans formed a circle around the crystal sphere, all looking equally terrified and confused. Kate stood at a control panel making final adjustments. "The process is simple in theory," she explained. "The Echo contains the combined knowledge of the first awakened. When you connect with it, you'll receive guidance on how to control your abilities." "In theory?" someone asked nervously. Jack stepped forward. "There are risks. The Echo contains raw experiences, memories of both the wonders and horrors of the Great War. Some minds reject the connection." "And what happens then?" Tom asked. The old keeper's face grew serious. "Psychic burnout. Brain death in severe cases." A murmur of fear passed through the group. "We wouldn't ask this of you if there were any other option," Kate said firmly. "But the aliens have already captured 7 awakened humans. We've tracked their ships taking people from the smaller settlements. They're hunting us." Jack nodded. and anyone they take will be studied, cut apart, their abilities turned into weapons against the rest of humanity. Tom swallowed hard but stepped closer to the echo. I'll go first. Kate gave him a measuring look, then nodded. Place your hands on the sphere. Try to clear your mind. Don't resist what comes. The moment Tom's fingers touched the crystal surface, his world exploded into countless pieces of memory and sensation. He was no longer in the chamber. He was everywhere, experiencing everything at once, a woman lifting an entire building with her mind to save trapped children, a man connecting telepathically with thousands, creating a network of shared consciousness, the horror of the first psychic war as minds tore into each other across continents, the agony of pushing too far, blood vessels bursting as abilities were pushed beyond safe limits, the careful research into genetic locks, the desperate plan to save humanity from itself. Tom screamed, but no sound came out. His physical body stood frozen, hands locked to the echo's surface as knowledge 3 centuries old poured into his mind. After what seemed like forever but was actually less than a minute, he collapsed to the floor, blood trickling from his nose. Tom. Jack rushed to his side, checking his pulse. Tom's eyes opened. The irises now flecked with the same blue light that came from the echo. I understand now, he whispered. Before he could explain further, an alarm blared throughout the complex. Kate pressed a hand to her communication device. Report. Visitor ships, came the urgent reply. 3 of them approaching from different directions. They're targeting the outlying homes first. They're hunting for awakened humans, Kate realized. Security teams to defensive positions. Get the untrained awakened to the lower levels. Tom struggled to his feet. I can help, he said, his voice stronger than before. I know how now. Kate looked doubtful. You've barely begun to understand your abilities. I don't have them all yet, but I understand the basics, Tom insisted. The echo showed me. We can't just hide. We need to actively defend our people. Jack studied his former student with pride and worry. What did you see, Tom? Everything. The history, the techniques, the warnings. Tom's eyes glowed brighter. And I saw what happens if the visitors get what they want. In the small farming community on the outskirts of the main settlement, Marcus hid in his cellar as the alien ship hovered right over his home. His headache had faded, replaced by a strange clarity. Objects no longer floated randomly around him. Now they moved according to his will. When the cellar door burst open, he was ready. 2 visitor soldiers in full combat gear came down the stairs, scanning devices leading them right to him. Human detected, one reported through its communication system. Strong energy signature. Marcus stepped out of the shadows. Looking for me? The soldiers raised their weapons, strange devices that looked like nets made of pulsing energy. Marcus raised his hand. The weapons flew upward, smashing into the ceiling. The soldiers charged, but Marcus felt the power surging through him. With a thought, he lifted both aliens off the ground. They struggled in midair, their armor suddenly seeming heavy and tight. You shouldn't have come here, Marcus said, surprised by the coldness in his own voice. He tightened his mental grip. The armor began to buckle inward. Before he could finish the deadly squeeze, a voice cut through his concentration. Stop! Tom stood at the top of the cellar stairs, Jack and 2 security officers behind him. Don't kill them, Tom said, coming down slowly. We need information. Marcus hesitated, then lowered the aliens to the ground, still holding them frozen. They were going to take me? I know. They've taken others already. Tom approached one of the soldiers and placed his hand on its helmet. He closed his eyes, concentrating. Images flowed into his mind. The ship above, other capture teams spread across the region, Rex giving orders, high command demanding specimens. And deeper, something more disturbing. Memories of other worlds conquered, other species defeated or wiped out. Tom pulled his hand away, gasping. They've done this 17 times before. Invaded developing worlds, taken what they wanted, eliminated any resistance. He looked at Jack. They were planning the same for Earth even before they discovered the awakenings. Jack nodded grimly. Then we've awakened just in time. A loud crash shook the farmhouse above them. Kate's voice came through their communication devices. Visitor reinforcements incoming. Fall back to the complex. Marcus looked panicked. There are more people in the surrounding farms. They'll be captured. We need to coordinate, Tom said firmly. I can help organize a defense, but not if we're scattered and picked off one by one. Jack put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. Trust him. What he experienced with the Echo, it's given him insights the rest of us don't have yet. After a moment's hesitation, Marcus nodded. He released his mental hold on the two soldiers, who collapsed unconscious to the floor. What about them? He asked. Leave them, Tom replied. They'll report what they saw. It might make the others hesitate before attacking again. As they rushed back toward the main complex, more ships appeared in the sky above. The hunt was getting more intense. On the bridge of the distant Reach, Commander Rex received the reports with growing worry. 4 capture teams lost contact, Aaron summarized. The last transmission showed a human demonstrating telekinetic abilities far beyond what we expected. Impossible, Dren scoffed. No species develops such abilities naturally. This wasn't natural, Rex said quietly. Remember the chambers, the ceremonies? They've been containing this power, controlling it. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare orbital strikes on the largest underground complexes. If we can't capture this power, we must eliminate it. Aaron looked alarmed. High Command ordered specimens, not elimination. The situation has changed, Rex replied coldly. These humans are not merely developing abilities. They already know how to use them. That suggests this is not a new discovery, but a deliberate defensive activation. You mean they knew we were coming? Dren asked in disbelief. Not us specifically, but they were prepared for something. Rex studied the planet below with new respect and caution. Begin the attack in 1 hour. Target their largest underground structures first. As the visitors prepared their attack, deep within the Earth complex, Tom stood once more before the Echo. This time, he wasn't alone. 20 more awakened humans had successfully connected with the ancient knowledge source, their eyes now bearing the same blue flecks as his. They're planning an orbital strike, Tom announced, the information coming to him through a new awareness that extended beyond normal senses. We don't have much time. Kate looked grim. Our conventional defenses can't stop their ships. No, Tom agreed, but we can. He turned to the circle of newly awakened humans. It's time to form the first link in 300 years. Jack's eyes widened. The link? Are you certain? That's the most dangerous technique. It's what led to the disasters of the Great War. It's also our only hope, Tom replied. Together, our minds united, we might create enough power to make a shield. Around the chamber, the awakened looked at each other with a mixture of fear and determination. None of them had sought this power, this responsibility. But now, as humanity's final weapon began to truly awaken, they had no choice but to master it or die in the attempt. The inner chamber hummed with energy as Tom arranged the awakened humans in a precise formation around the Echo. 24 individuals stood in circles within circles, their faces tense with focus. At the center, Tom placed his hands on the crystal sphere, which now pulsed with light matching his heartbeat. The link isn't just combining our abilities, he explained, his voice steady despite the pressure building inside his skull. It's creating a unified consciousness, a collective mind greater than the sum of its parts. Kate watched from the edge of the room, arms crossed over her chest. As a military officer, she understood conventional warfare, but this was beyond her experience. How dangerous is this really, Jack? She whispered to the old keeper beside her. Jack's weathered face was grim. The first awakened created the link to defend Earth during the Great War. It worked, but the power it created warped reality itself. Some of the participants were lost completely, their minds burned away by the energy they channeled. And you're letting Tom attempt this? She hissed. Not letting, trusting, Jack corrected. The knowledge he gained from the Echo is more complete than anything I could teach him. He understands the risks better than I do now. In the center of the formation, Tom closed his eyes. Everyone, clear your minds. Focus on my voice. The link begins with surrender. Let go of your individual worries and connect to the person on your right and left. A visible wave of blue energy began to flow between the participants, connecting them like a web of light. Now reach deeper, Tom continued. Find the core of your awakened ability and open it to the others. The blue web brightened, pulsing with increased power. Several participants gasped as the mental barriers between them began to dissolve. Marcus, standing in the inner circle, suddenly stiffened. "I can feel everyone," he said in wonder. "Their thoughts, their emotions. Stay focused," Tom warned. "Don't get lost in the connection. Remember your anchor." Before the ceremony, he had told each participant to hold firmly to a personal memory, something that defined their individual identity. This anchor would prevent them from being completely absorbed into the collective consciousness. As the link strengthened, Tom's awareness expanded dramatically. He could sense every person in the complex, then everyone in the settlement above. Further still, his mind stretched outward, touching the consciousness of awakened humans across the continent. Miles away, people who had never attended a quiet worship suddenly felt a gentle presence in their minds, inviting connection. And above it all, he sensed the visitor ships. Cold points of alien intelligence preparing to rain destruction from orbit. "They're targeting the main chamber," Tom announced, his voice now overlaid with multiple harmonic tones as the link spoke through him. "Weapons charging. Impact in 7 minutes." Kate pressed her communication device. "All personnel emergency evacuation protocol. Move to secure levels 5 through 8 immediately." But Jack remained still, watching Tom with growing amazement. "That won't be necessary," he said softly. "What are you talking about? Their weapons will punch right through." "Watch," Jack interrupted, pointing to the ceiling. Above them, visible through the link's shared perception, a dome of blue energy was forming over the entire complex, extending several miles in each direction. It shimmered like heat waves over desert sand, nearly transparent but undeniably present. "A shield," Kate whispered. Jack nodded. "The first defense of the awakened." On the bridge of the distant reach, alarms blared as sensors detected the sudden energy surge. "What is that?" Rex demanded, staring at the view screen where a faint blue dome had appeared over their primary target. Erin worked frantically at her console. "Energy shield of unknown composition. It's like nothing in our database. The power readings are—" She hesitated, rechecking her instruments. "Off the scale. Can our weapons penetrate it?" "Unknown, Commander. But the shield is expanding rapidly." Dren watched with growing unease as the blue dome spread outward, covering more territory with each passing second. "Launch the strike now, before it grows stronger." Rex hesitated only briefly before giving the order. Fire. Brilliant beams of concentrated energy lanced down from the visitor ships, striking the blue shield with tremendous force. The impact created spectacular effects, ripples of power cascading across the dome's surface, but the shield held. "Impossible," Dren whispered. "No planetary defense should withstand a full orbital attack." Erin's voice was tight with scientific excitement despite the situation. "Commander, I'm detecting a new phenomenon. The shield isn't just blocking our attack. It's absorbing the energy and growing stronger." Rex's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "Cease fire immediately." But the order came too late. The blue shield pulsed once brightly, then sent a massive surge of energy back along the weapon's paths. The feedback overloaded the visitors' systems, causing explosions across the smaller ships and severe damage to the distant reach. "Emergency protocols," Rex ordered as his bridge filled with smoke and warning alerts. "Withdraw to safe orbit." As the damaged visitor fleet retreated, the blue shield continued to expand, now covering hundreds of square miles and growing. In the inner chamber, the link had reached its full potential. 24 minds functioned as one, with Tom serving as the focal point. Through their combined consciousness, they perceived far beyond normal human limits, and what they saw astonished them. "The markers," Tom said, his voice reverberating with the power of the collective. "They're everywhere." The link's awareness had expanded to cosmic scale, allowing them to perceive something hidden in plain sight, ancient warning beacons placed around Earth's solar system and dozens of nearby stars. "Placed by who?" Kate asked, her voice seeming distant and small compared to the harmonics of the link. "By us," Jack answered, understanding dawning on his weathered face. "By humanity before the lock." Through the link, Tom accessed deeper memories stored within the echo, knowledge that had been hidden from even the keepers for centuries. Earth wasn't always our only home, the link spoke through him. Before the Great War, humanity had spread to nearby star systems. When the psychic abilities first appeared, when the destruction began, outposts were established throughout local space. Images flowed through the collective consciousness. Massive generation ships leaving Earth. Colonies established on distant worlds, networks of psychic communication spanning light years. The quiet worship wasn't just containing our abilities, Tom continued. It was preserving them, keeping the connection alive but asleep until needed. The genetic lock wasn't meant to be permanent. It was a safety measure designed to be released when humanity faced an existential threat. Kate struggled to comprehend the scale of what she was hearing. You're saying we were once an interstellar civilization with psychic powers? More than that, Jack said, old pieces finally fitting together in his mind. We were the protectors of this region of space. The link showed them more. Other species, peaceful exchanges, cooperative ventures across dozens of worlds. And then the arrival of the first aggressive species, similar to the visitors, but more primitive in their technology. The Awakened defended not just Earth, but all allied worlds, Tom explained, the link's voice growing stronger. But the power was too great, too tempting. Some began to see themselves as gods rather than guardians. The images darkened, worlds torn apart by psychic warfare, reality itself warped by unchecked power. Earth, the origin point of the ability, suffered the worst. As factions fought for control, the survivors made a choice, Tom said. To save what remained, they created the genetic lock and the quiet worship. They established the keepers to maintain the tradition until the day the ability would be needed again. And they placed warning markers, Jack added, telling any who could read them that this region of space was protected, that the sleeping giants should be left in peace. Marcus, still part of the link but able to speak individually, looked confused. The visitors ignored the warnings or couldn't read them, Kate suggested. If the markers were designed for psychic perception, they were, Tom confirmed. The visitors lack even the most basic psychic sensitivity. They saw the markers but perceived them as natural phenomena, not messages. Jack turned to Kate, his expression grave. Do you understand what this means? The visitors' attack didn't just awaken our defense mechanism. It restored our connection to our true history, our true purpose. Before Kate could respond, Tom suddenly stiffened, the link's energy flaring around him. The visitors are contacting their high command, he announced. They're calling for reinforcements, a full invasion fleet. Alarm spread through the room, but Jack stepped forward, placing a weathered hand on Tom's shoulder. There's more in the echo, isn't there? He asked quietly. More knowledge, more power. Tom nodded slowly, the blue light in his eyes intensifying. The full awakening protocol. It would break the remaining genetic locks worldwide, triggering awakening in every human with the capacity. The casualties would be catastrophic, Kate protested. You said yourself many minds can't handle sudden awakening. True, Jack acknowledged. But what choice do we have? The visitors won't stop with one attempt. If their entire fleet comes... Tom's expression became distant as the link processed possibilities, calculating outcomes with the combined intelligence of 24 enhanced minds. There's another way, he said finally. A controlled global awakening, guided by those of us already connected. Is that possible? Kate asked. Difficult, but yes, Tom replied. The first Awakened designed fail-safes for exactly this scenario, but it will require sacrifice. He turned to Jack, his expression somber. Someone must serve as the conduit for the initial pulse, channeling enough energy to reach every human simultaneously. Understanding dawned on Jack's face, and no one could survive being that conduit. Tom nodded slowly. The echo contains the procedure. A single keeper must connect directly to its core, becoming a living amplifier for the awakening signal. I'll do it, Jack said without hesitation. It's what I've prepared for my entire life, though I never knew it until now. Kate started to protest, but Jack silenced her with a raised hand. My time is nearly done anyway. And this is the purpose of all our generations of keeping the silence. He smiled sadly. To speak again when the time was right. As the link maintained the shield against potential further attacks, preparations began for humanity's full reawakening. The final weapon, not a device of destruction, but the collective consciousness of an entire species, was about to be completely unleashed after 3 centuries of sleep. And high above Earth, the visitor fleet regrouped, still unaware that they had not merely disturbed a primitive religious ritual, but had triggered the return of the greatest power their kind had ever encountered. 3 days after the failed orbital strike, Earth appeared deceptively calm from space. The blue shield had pulled back, now covering only the major underground complexes. To the approaching visitor reinforcements, it might have seemed that the initial threat was contained. They were gravely mistaken. In the deepest level of the main complex, preparations for the global awakening reached their final stage. The inner chamber had been transformed, with the Echo now suspended above a circular platform where Jack stood alone. Rings within rings of awakened humans surrounded him, their minds linked in a vast supporting network. Tom stood at the innermost circle, the strain of maintaining the link evident on his face. 48 minds now connected through him, twice the original number as more humans successfully underwent the awakening process. The visitor fleet will reach Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours, he announced, the link's harmonic voice echoing through the chamber. 7 capital ships, 22 support vessels. Their weapons are significantly more powerful than the initial attack force. Kate studied the tactical display projected onto one wall of the chamber. Even with our conventional defenses and the shield, we can't stop a fleet that size. We don't need to stop them, Jack said calmly. We just need time for the protocol to complete. The old keeper looked different now, more vibrant despite his years, his eyes glowing with the same blue light that marked all the awakened. He had spent decades maintaining the quiet worship, never fully understanding its purpose. Now, in his final hours, he had found perfect clarity. "The Echo is ready," he said. "The amplification circuits are calibrated. Once activated, the pulse will reach every human on Earth simultaneously." Tom stepped forward, breaking formation briefly to stand before his mentor. "Jack, there must be another way. The link is growing stronger. Maybe if we wait, gather more awakened?" Jack shook his head. "The calculations are clear. We need a global response to face this threat." He placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "This was always my destination, though I didn't know it. The Keepers have prepared for generations, passing down the knowledge, maintaining the quiet worship. Now we understand why." Tom embraced the old man, fighting back tears. "I'll make sure it wasn't in vain. I know you will." Jack stepped away, moving to the center of the platform. "Begin the sequence." Kate took her position at the control system. Despite not being awakened herself, her military training made her the ideal operator for the technical aspects of the protocol. Energy channeling systems online, bioconnectors active. The Echo began to pulse more rapidly, its light synchronizing with Jack's heartbeat. Fine tendrils of blue energy extended from the sphere, connecting to specific points on Jack's body: forehead, throat, chest, palms. "Neural interface established," Kate reported. "Power levels rising?" Jack closed his eyes, his face serene despite the enormous energies beginning to flow through him. "I can feel them," he whispered. "All of them. Every human mind on Earth." "Final authorization required," Kate said, looking to Tom. There was a moment of hesitation, a final acknowledgement of what they were about to unleash. Then Tom nodded. "Proceed." Kate pressed her palm against the activation plate. Global Awakening Protocol initiated. The Echo flared with blinding light as Jack's body arched backward, becoming a living conduit for powers that had been dormant for centuries. Blue energy coursed through him, amplified 1,000-fold, then radiated outward in an expanding sphere that passed through walls, earth and ocean as if they were not there. Around the world, humans stopped in mid-motion as the wave touched them. In fields and factories, in homes and schools, 7 billion people simultaneously experienced the same momentary connection, a gentle but insistent awakening, calling forth abilities long suppressed by the genetic lock. Not all would develop full abilities. The Echo's designers had been wiser this time, creating safeguards that would limit awakening based on individual capacity. But everyone would feel the connection, the awareness that humanity was more than they had believed. In the chamber, Jack's physical form began to lose solidity, turning translucent as the energies consumed him. Still he stood, channeling the power until the pulse had completed its global journey. "It is done," he said, his voice no longer coming from his dissolving body, but resonating directly in the minds of everyone present. Then, With a final smile, Jack vanished entirely, his consciousness merging with the echo itself, becoming part of the collective knowledge that would guide the newly awakened. Tom felt the connection break, a sensation like a great weight lifted from his shoulders. The link remained, but Jack's presence within it was gone. Kate looked up from her console, tears streaking her face despite her military composure. Energy pulse complete. Global distribution at 97% effectiveness. And Jack? Marcus asked softly. He's everywhere now, Tom answered, touching the echo gently. Part of all of us. There was no time for further mourning. The tactical display flashed with new warnings as the visitor fleet entered final approach. There. Moving into attack formation, Kate reported. Weapon systems charging. They'll be in range in 19 minutes. Tom straightened, facing the gathered awakened. It's time to show them who we really are. Commander Rex stood on the bridge of the flagship Sovereign Will, a vessel 10 times the size of his damaged scout ship. Around him, the military might of the Visitor Empire prepared to subjugate yet another world. Scans confirm the defensive shield is limited to these regions, reported the tactical officer, highlighting several areas on the global display. Our combined firepower should overwhelm them quickly. Admiral Vex, the fleet commander, nodded in satisfaction. Begin the attack sequence. Target their shield generators first, then their population centers. Standard conquest protocol. Rex hesitated. Admiral, I recommend caution. These humans have demonstrated abilities we don't fully understand. Your failure to capture specimens has been noted, Commander, Vex replied coldly. Stand aside and observe how a proper military operation is conducted. As the fleet moved into firing position, something unexpected appeared on their sensors. Thousands of small energy signatures rising from Earth's surface. What are those? Vex demanded. The sensor officer adjusted his instruments. Impossible! They appear to be humans, Admiral. Flying without vehicles. Outside the viewports, they could see them now. Glowing figures ascending through the atmosphere, surrounded by blue auras that protected them from the vacuum of space. Thousands of awakened humans, their abilities now fully active, rising to meet the invasion fleet. Open fire! Vex ordered, panic edging into his voice. The massive weapons of the visitor fleet discharged, sending destructive energy toward the approaching humans. But the beams never reached their targets. Each blast was caught, contained, and redirected by telekinetic barriers generated by the awakened. Among the defenders, Tom floated at the center of a formation that mirrored the link structure below. His consciousness extended through the network of minds, coordinating their response with precision that would have been impossible for individuals acting alone. They rely on technology. His thoughts flowed through the link. We are the technology. The awakened responded as one, extending their combined telekinetic grip to the nearest visitor ships. Metal groaned as invisible forces compressed hull plating. Engines sputtered and died as their internal components were gently but firmly disassembled. On the flagship's bridge, systems failed in cascading sequence. Even the artificial gravity fluctuated, leaving the visitors floating helplessly. What is happening? Vex demanded, clinging to his command chair. Rex watched through the viewport as the awakened humans approached, their expressions not angry or vengeful, but determined. They're showing us the difference between conquest and defense, he said softly. This is why the markers were placed. What markers? What are you talking about? Vex snapped. Before Rex could answer, the bridge view screen activated on its own. Tom's face appeared, his eyes glowing with blue light. This ends now, he said, his voice somehow transmitting despite the ship's communications being offline. Your invasion fleet is disabled. You will not be harmed, but you will leave this system immediately. Vex snarled in defiance. The Visitor Empire does not retreat. This planet will be... His voice cut off as Tom raised a hand, not choking or harming the Admiral, simply preventing sound from leaving his mouth. You misunderstand, Tom continued calmly. This is not a negotiation. Through the link, we have accessed your navigation systems. Your ships are already being redirected home. Indeed, across the fleet, engines were reactivating, turning the massive vessels away from Earth. No amount of manual override from the crews had any effect. When you return, Tom said, you will deliver a message to your high command. This region of space is protected. It always has been. The markers you ignored were warnings placed by humanity centuries ago when we first ventured among the stars. Tom's image seemed to grow, filling the screen. We are not a primitive species you can conquer. We are the guardians of this sector, and we have awakened. The screen went dark as the flagship, along with the entire visitor fleet, accelerated away from Earth at speeds their engines shouldn't have been capable of generating. 1 month later, Tom stood on a hillside overlooking the main settlement. Below, the world was transforming. New structures rose without construction equipment as awakened humans used telekinesis to place materials. Others used their abilities to heal the land, accelerate crop growth, or generate clean energy. Kate joined him, wearing her military uniform but with a new insignia, the Echo symbol, signifying her role as liaison between conventional forces and the awakened. The satellite network is complete, she reported. We can now monitor the warning markers across 50 light years. Tom nodded. And the old outposts? We've received signals from 3 so far. It seems there were survivors, human colonies that maintained their own version of the quiet worship all this time. Jack would have been pleased to know he wasn't alone in his vigil, Tom said softly. Kate looked up at the night sky where a faint blue shimmer, invisible to normal eyes but clear to the awakened, marked the extended protective field now surrounding Earth's solar system. What happens now? She asked. The visitors won't be the last to come. No, Tom agreed, but we'll be ready, not as conquerors. Jack was right about the dangers of that path. But as guardians, the role we were meant to fulfill before the Great War. In the settlement below, the daily quiet worship continued, but with a difference. Instead of maintaining silence to suppress their abilities, the participants now used the time to refine their control, to connect with the growing network of awakened minds across the planet and beyond. We've been given a second chance, Tom said, to use these gifts properly, to become what we were meant to be. He turned to Kate with a smile, and it all began because some aliens entered the quiet worship and woke humanity's final weapon. She finished. But they both knew that the weapon wasn't the psychic abilities themselves. It was what the abilities enabled: connection, understanding, and the restoration of humanity's forgotten legacy among the stars. As night deepened, more awakened humans joined them on the hillside, their eyes reflecting the blue light of distant suns, where human consciousness would soon reach once again, not to conquer, but to reconnect with their cosmic heritage. And somewhere within the collective awareness that now spanned the globe, Jack's consciousness continued to guide them, his lifetime of keeping the silence finally rewarded with the universe of voices he had helped to awaken.